Hi everyone, good evening. A very warm welcome to all of you for the final keynote speaker session. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our director, sir, Dr. Rajesh Chakrabarti. Now it's time for the much awaited speaker. He is the founder of InfoEdge, India's first internet company to be listed on Indian Stock Exchange, a company that owns Naukri.com, India's leading job site, 99acres.com, jeevansathi.com, and shiksha.com. It has invested in approximately 50 startups with the likes of Zomato, Policy Bazaar, Shop Kirana, Ustra, and many more. Sir has been a chair of the Internet Council of NASSCOM. He's also a member of National Startup Advisory Council. He received EY Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2008, and in April 2017, Outlook magazine selected him as one of India's 50 greatest CEOs ever. Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, sir, it's an absolute honor to have you as our keynote speaker. Sir, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here. And thank you, Dr. Chakrabarti, Director. And thank you, Yogesh, and all the students of MDI for inviting me. I'm going to sort of ruminate a bit about how I started, tell a couple of stories. And in hindsight, a lot of what I'm going to say is actually wisdom in hindsight. I didn't know it when I was doing it, but we did something right, something's wrong, something's by design, something's by accident, but we muddled through. तो जो मैं पहली कहानी सुनाना चाहूंगा वो ये है कि I was finishing my 2-year program in management at IIM Ahmedabad, and I had gone there after working for 3 years in an advertising agency. Now, in '89, when I graduated, in those days, companies would not come to the IIM or MBA campuses to recruit laterally. So no matter how many years of experience you had to start life as a management trainee all over again. Now, I had 3 years of experience in advertising, and I wanted a job in consumer marketing. And I felt the experience was relevant, so I did not see why I should start as a trainee again. So I went outside placement, and I approached a company that was not coming to campus. Placement rules allowed you to do that. That if a company is not coming to campus, you can approach them directly. And I secured a job in a company called HMM, then now it's called GlaxoSmithKline, and I got a job there to work in marketing on the brand Horlicks. So I came back to campus after getting my job. I had got the job 2-3 months before term ended. And I went to the placement chair, who was a professor, and I said to him, "Sir, I'm opting out of placement because, I've got a job and these placement rules don't suit me, where typically companies will hire at the entry level, and I wanted a lateral job." So the placement chair sort of asked, after quizzing me about which company and what job and making sure I'd not broken any rules, he said, "Okay, great. So you're volunteering to help me in placement." He needed some arms and legs, some bodies. So there were 3 or 4 people who opted out of placement. I was one of them. We were all sort of made to volunteer. And on the placement day, we were told, we were assigned some tasks, right? And so the job I was given essentially was that of a concierge. When the company executives who were there for recruitment would come to campus, my job was to receive them at the gate of the institute, and then escort them to the interview rooms, make sure tea, coffee, biscuits are being served, make sure the candidates, the applicants are lining up outside on time, make sure they go in the right order, take them for lunch, then come back in the afternoon, once again, tea, coffee, biscuits, interviews. At 4 o'clock, when the interviews are over, I had to take them to the placement office where they would submit their, reports that, okay, these are the people we are want to make offers to, and so on. Now, placement rules were such that you could, a student could get up to 2 job offers. You don't have to say yes to the first job offer. You can hold on to it for 48 hours. If you don't give a response in 48 hours, you lose that job offer. If you say yes, you're out of placement, and you're allowed a second job offer if you've not said yes. Right? Now, what happened was there were 4 companies on day 1 of placement. So day 1 was a very coveted day. In those days, day 1 was day 1. There was no day 0, no day -1 till that. Day 1 was day 1, right? And the 4 companies that had come, and these are decided by student votes, who gets to come on day 1. So the most popular companies, the most coveted companies were coming on day one. And these were Hindustan Lever, Procter & Gamble, Bank of America, and Citibank, all for multinationals, 2 in consumer marketing, 2 in finance. In those days, consulting companies were not there in India. Investment banks were not there. Venture capital funds, PE funds, and other investors were not there. It was largely finance and marketing. Finance typically meant banking. Right? Now, what had happened was Hindustan Lever had come with 4 people to interview, and Citibank had come with 8, which meant that Lever was running 2 rooms, 2 panels, but Citibank was running 4 panels. So the head of HR of Hindustan Lever, who was there that time, among the 4, he got very worried. He thought Citibank would process candidates faster because they're running 4 panels. We only have 2, and they would make an offer. And if somebody accepts, he's out of placement. He will not even be able to come for my final interview in Lever. So what he began to do was, if he liked somebody across the table, he began to make an instant offer across the table, take out an offer letter, sign it, write the guy's name, and say, here's the offer letter. You got to sign accepted and walk with me to placement office and drop out of placement immediately and not go for the final Citibank interview. Otherwise, I'm withdrawing this offer. I'm tearing up the letter. Now, this was completely against placement rules, and it disrupted the entire placement season because the Citibank guys found out. They got very upset. There was yelling and screaming happening. There was, a student had a right to get 2 job offers, but he was being forced to sign, he or she. So this disrupted the entire placement process that year. And for that year, all the rules were changed because of what this one person from Hindustan Lever did. Now, from there, I got my first product idea. I said to myself that, listen, if companies are going to compete in this fashion for talent at the IIM campuses, then if somebody were to do a survey of all the companies coming to IIM campuses and the salary offers they're making to the students, this salary survey would be a product which would be in demand and would sell. And therefore, I said a year later, when I quit my job, I went to people in my junior batch and I took out the data by asking them what they were getting. And we had a salary survey ready of about 100 to 150 companies that had come to IMA campus, or at least had put up the placement offers. So we wrote the report. We sent letters to about 600 HR managers. We got the addresses and names from the appointment ads in newspapers and magazines, and sent them a letter saying, we have such and such salary survey. These are the companies covered. The price we said was 3,500 rupees. Please send the money in advance and we will send you the report. And within 3 weeks, we had 23 orders. That's 80,000 rupees worth. Now, 80,000 rupees today seems like a small sum of money, but believe me, in 1990, it was a very large sum of money. To put it in perspective, the average salary in my class at IMA was 44,000 rupees per annum. So this was roughly 2 years' salary of an IMA graduate. What's the average salary at MDI now, currently? Anybody? Tell me.
Sir, it's around 24 lakhs.
24 lakhs. Right? So this is the equivalent of 50 lakhs in today's money, right? With just 600 letters going out. It was a 93% margin product. The only cost was photocopying the report, the cover page, binding, and courier. The 93% margin product, money in advance, and this total sales with just one letter was, in today's terms, 50 lakhs. So imagine if today you did this and you got a 40 lakh profit or a 45 lakh profit. Right? In advance, no chasing money, no chasing collections, outstanding, nothing. So it was that kind of product, right? So this is story number one. Story number two is how Naukri was launched. When I was in my last job at HMM, the junior marketing team of which I was a member, I was product executive, we would all sit in an open hall. There were no cabins, no cubicles, no partitions, nothing, just an open hall, right? Because of which I could see what my colleagues were doing and hear what they were saying on the phone. I could overhear all the conversations. And I noticed something very strange. Every time the office copy of Business India would come and go from desk to desk, all my colleagues would read it from the back. Because in those days, there were 35 to 40 pages of appointment ads at the back of Business India. It was the number one appointment ad medium in print for professional managers, right? And so all my colleagues would read the appointment ads, and many would not even read the articles. And I found this very strange behavior. Right? And I realized that jobs are a very high interest category of information. Right? You will always read about jobs. You will always look at it. Whether or not you're interested in applying for a job, you will look at it. And this is the germ of the insight on the basis of which we launched Naukri 7 years later. People are interested in jobs. Therefore, can we get all the jobs from all the newspapers around the country and put them up on the internet and see what happens? And that experiment became Naukri. We got 29 newspapers and magazines around the country, and we would take out all the jobs and put them in our own words in a database and put them on the net. And because jobs are a high interest category of information, we got traffic without having to advertise. Simply because people want to know about jobs, they would come. We had no money to advertise anyway, we were broke, right? But we had a hot button. Story number three. In 2010, I met Deepinder Goyal for the first time. Deepinder Goyal is the founder of Zomato. And he had been running a site. Zomato was then called Foodie Bay. He had been running a site called Foodie Bay, which I had been using. And I really liked the site. And what I liked about it was that there were many food sites, many restaurant sites. But Foodie Bay was the only one which had all the menu cards. The others did not have menu cards. And I found it very useful that I could go to the site, look at a restaurant, look at the menu card, see the dish, see the price, and then decide where to go. So I reached out to him and he met me. And I asked him, Deepinder, boss, well done. Ye idea kahan se aaya? Where did you get this idea from? And he said, I was working in Bain Consulting in Gurgaon, out of IIT. And Bain Consulting had 45 to 50, maybe employees, mostly young, mostly male, mostly living away from home. In other words, they would not get food from home. Right? Office hours were long, consulting was long hours. So you often had 2 meals in the office, lunch and dinner. The office had a cafeteria, but it would not serve food. You could bring your own food and eat it there. To make life easy for the employees, the admin team had collated and collected all the delivery menu cards of all the restaurants that would deliver to that location, maybe 70, 80 of them. And they kept them in a file folder at the cafeteria for everyone to refer to. And Deepinder said, it was a huge pain. At 1 p.m. every day, if you go down to the cafeteria, there would be a long line to access this file folder. And then you got it for 2 minutes, and then you decide very quickly, then follow the restaurant, place the order, and then come back in 45 minutes when the order came. Huge pain. So he says, one weekend I came in and I scanned all these menu cards and put them up on my personal page on the office intranet. And within 2 days, the IT infra guy came to me and said, man, what have you done? Why is 95% of internal traffic going to your page? Right? So a penny dropped. Just as I had figured many years ago that aggregation of jobs has got value, he figured that aggregation of menu cards has got value. And with his boss's permission to work on a personal project, he began to go on weekends, restaurant to restaurant, just picking up delivery menu cards. Right? When he had 800 of them, he launched the site Foodie Bay with 800 menu cards and some restaurant details. And immediately traffic began to come. And that's how Zomato was launched. So 3 stories. One is the salary survey, other is Naukri, the third is Zomato. All 3 stories have one common thing. Can anybody guess? Any ideas? What is common in these 3 stories? Anybody? Saloni, Harshil, Darshini, Shovan, anybody? Hitesh?
So there was a problem they were trying to solve?
Yes. So here's what I say. Successful businesses are built on deep customer insights. Deep customer insights about what? About some unsolved problem, some market gap, some need, some unsatisfied, unmet need, something which tells you that, look, if I solve this, if I do this, I won't have to sell, the customer will buy. We didn't have to sell the salary survey. We just sent out a mailer, a letter, 600 of them. Total cost 2,000 rupees, and we got 80,000 of sales. Deepinder just got the menu cards and put it up, traffic began to come. We just got the job put up, traffic began to come. We didn't have to sell because we had that insight. So if you have a customer insight about an unsolved problem, an unmet need, a gap in the market, and your decision of what to launch, what product, what service to launch is informed by that insight, you are halfway there already. You have hit a hot button, customers will come, you won't have to advertise, you won't have to sell, the customer will buy. So when you're thinking of launching a new business, the single most important thing to do is to focus on the customer. Who is your prospective customer? Who is your customer? Maybe you're a customer yourself and it's a problem you faced. Right? And if you address that problem and solve it, hopefully the customer will buy. Right? So the first message when I'm talking about when you're thinking of launching a new business, the single most important decision you'll make is what business should I launch? And to my mind, it's absolutely clear. Your decision on which business to launch, which area to enter, should be informed by customer insight. What is the unsolved problem I'm solving? And to find out what the unsolved problems are, you need customer insights. So focus on the customer. Don't launch a business because hey, that guy's doing it, I'll also do it. Don't launch a business because hey, it worked in America, it'll work here. Launch a business because say, I know my customer. I know my customer will buy this. Right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is about something mentioned in the topic about financing a business. Right? What you're starting. I always tell people that the customer's money is better than the investor's money. Because if you're getting the customer's money and you're getting it at a price higher than the cost, and you're getting it repeatedly from the same customer, which means that the customer is happy. That's why he's buying again. He or she is buying again, right? Then chances are you have a viable business as long as you can get enough customers. And if you get the customer's money, the investor's money will almost certainly follow. But you may not need it. But let's say you want it. The investor's money will come because investors love to invest behind businesses that are getting the customer's money. On the other hand, if you chase the investor's money first and you get it, let's say you're successful, you get it, there is no guarantee that the customer's money will follow. The customer doesn't care if you got investor money. Customer cares if what you're selling solves this problem. And therefore, if you get the investor's money but the customer's money does not follow, you have a failed business. You may have some investor money, but you have a failed business. So the customer is not your uncle, your aunt, your brother, your sister, your parent, or your father or mother. The customer is not going to do you a favor. Right? So the customer's money is coming. It means you're onto something. If the customer's money is not coming, then tweak your offering to make sure the customer's money comes. Whereas getting the investor's money is sometimes a lot easier, because getting investors' money is about impressing two MBAs across the table with a PowerPoint. But that does not mean the customer's money will follow. I will leave you with these two thoughts on the importance of focusing on the customer and getting customer insights, and that insight informs your business. And the second thought is focus on getting the customer's money more than getting the investor's money. Okay? And we can move on to Q&A if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir. Sounds perfect. So I'm sure students will have so many questions to ask from you. I request each one of you who wants to ask the questions to sir to please raise your hands, and we'll allow you one by one to ask the questions. So Saloni, you can go ahead and ask the question.
Hi.
Sorry, Yogesh, yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, Sanjeev sir. Thank you for being here with us today. And thank you for whatever learnings you have shared with us. Sir, I wanted to ask you that you're an entrepreneur and you're also an investor. So what are the similarity between these two roles that you play? And also what is the primary difference?
No, it's very different. You see, as an entrepreneur, you're heading a company, you're doing an operating job, right? As an investor, you're not the entrepreneur's boss. You're just an investor. So nobody becomes an entrepreneur to get a new boss, right? So as an investor, if you believe you're the CEO of the company and try and tell the entrepreneur what to do, you listen once, listen twice. After that, you stop taking your calls. Right? So you've got to work with the entrepreneur, suggest, nudge, understand, have conversations, right? Give feedback, and make sure you're building rapport and chemistry with the entrepreneur. Now, as an entrepreneur, and I was CEO of the company in 2010, when I would say something, it would get done. As an investor, when I say something, it does not necessarily get done. It's a conversation. The entrepreneur decides. It's his job, it's his company, he's the CEO. Right? And so if I say 10 things, maybe one or two get done. Right? There are two very big differences.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for the insight. And also, sir, I had just one more question. I know there are other people who are waiting to ask you the questions. So, if you could just tell us about one particular failure or a setback that shaped you, and you could share that.
Look, we are frugal as a company. We are frugal entrepreneurs, right? And initially, when we didn't have money, for us, survival was success. And the point is, if you keep your costs low, really low, which is how we operated until we became much larger and more profitable. If you keep costs really low, you won't fail simply because no matter how low the sales are, you will survive because you kept your costs low. But having said that, look, what we have learned is that if you're innovative first mover, you have a reasonable chance of success. But wherever you are late in the game, you are number 2, number 3, number 4, and somebody's been there for 2-3 years. It's a bit in market after market that innovative first movers often succeed, copycats fail. And so wherever we've been second mover, third mover, fourth mover with undifferentiated offering, it has been a struggle.
Thank you, sir.
Rohan, you can go ahead and ask the question.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for the session. So, sir, I want to understand one thing. You said that I see a lot of startups who will just copy what's been done in America and they copy it here and they are pretty much successful. But I think like we are reaching a saturation point. So how do you think like what's the difference between
See, you may succeed. You may succeed to the copycat model by fluke, not because you had a customer insight and you knew this will succeed. Number one. Number two, the truth is, you're not really successful in a business till you're profitable and sustainable. Till then, you're just work in progress. So I don't know which startup you're talking about, but if you're copying stuff, I mean, are they profitable?
Yeah, no, I mean,
so the jury's still out. I think jury's still out. So that's not the way I would do it. Okay. And look, I could be wrong, right? There isn't just one way to skin the cat.
There's just one thing. So I was reading about Naukri.com. More than the listing now, I feel Naukri is turning into more of an investor group. They're trying into Zomato, investing into Zomato.
Actually, only 6 people in Naukri work in investments. 4,494 people work in the operating business. Right? So, I mean, Info Edge is an operating company. It also invests. About analysts attribute about 25 to 30% of our market cap coming from investments, 70% coming from the operating business. We are still largely an operating company.
Sarani, you can ask the question.
So you are one of the early players when it comes to internet company and even invested in Zomato. So what are your views on the upcoming technologies like blockchain, NFT?
So honestly, we are still trying to understand them. We know a bit about them, but not enough. Clearly, there's a lot of action happening there. A lot of people are trying. A lot of investments are going there. And we ourselves are beginning to put our toe in the water. Now, how successful and transformational they will be over the next 10 years or 5 years, it remains to be seen.
Okay, so thank you.
Harshita, you can go ahead and ask the question.
Good afternoon, sir. Your stories were really, really inspiring. So what I was thinking was, what should one focus on more? Creating a product or services that never existed before and finding takers for the same, or redefining the service and process for an existing category in a manner that
either can work. Point is, it's got to be differentiated, defensible, and relevant.
differentiate.
Right now, differentiated means that if you're a Me Too, it's harder. But if you're different, you may succeed. But to succeed, you have to be relevant, right? Which means the customer should want you, and you have to be defensible. That tomorrow, if the incumbent players also, launch the same thing, and they've got distribution and they've got financial muscle and they've got a brand recognition, then what will happen to you? So you got to be differentiated, defensible, relevant. And if you have these three, hopefully you will succeed if you execute well.
Thank you, sir. I'll take a note.
Raghav, you can ask your question.
With a lot of early stage startups getting access to funds without having perfected the business model, are they just burning through cash, or is it better to get started and learn through their iterations?
Look, you always learn through iterations. It's always better to get started, right? If along the way you get funding, it's often very good because then you can do stuff faster, do it better, do it larger. But I bootstrapped for 10 years and we bootstrapped Naukri for 3 years, and that was also invaluable learning. So I would say every situation is different. Get started.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Raj, you can unmute and ask the question.
First of all, thank you, sir, for such an inspiring session. Sir, I would request you to recommend a book to all the aspiring entrepreneurs.
A book. So look, I actually stopped reading management books about 10 years ago. I began to read history books, right? But I used to read management books before that, and I found several of them useful and interesting. There are 2 books I read a while back, maybe 15 years ago. One was a book called Built to Last, and the second was a book with one of the authors was the same, called Good to Great. So Built to Last talks about what makes a company durable. Some companies last for a long, long, long time. Why is that? And some came out in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. What's the difference? So if you are, as an entrepreneur, if I want to create an institution, a brand that will outlive me, that will last a long, long time, then how do we do it? Right?
Okay.
The second book was same author. One of the authors is common, right? Was Good to Great. There are very many good companies, but only very few truly great companies. So what is it that differentiates a merely good company from a truly great company? Right? And I think both of these are useful to reflect upon, maybe a few years after you started your company.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Harshal, you can ask your question.
Very good evening, sir. I was intrigued after hearing your story and how you dropped out from placement. So I wanted to understand your viewpoint on B schools today and how they would be contributing, or are they contributing enough to that startup ecosystem?
Look, B schools are contributing. Question is, are the students doing the right things? So I noticed a few things from when I went to business school in 1987 to 89, which is 34 years ago, 35 years ago, I joined IMA. In those days, we used to go to business school for learning, right? And today, when I see people of my daughter went to business school, people in the family, next generation have gone to business school. Right? But nowadays, it's more about networking and placement. And I'm not sure how much the focus among students is on learning. And you tell me, so the challenge, so I was speaking to, about 10 or 15 years ago, I was speaking to the head of the Center for Innovation, Incubation, Entrepreneurship at IIM Ahmedabad, Rakesh Basant, professor. And he said, we have a problem. I said, what? He said, the problem is that from before the time when a student joins IMA, he already knows this is my dream job. I want to join Goldman Sachs. I want to join McKinsey after I graduate. They already know it. And they just work backwards from there and they're gaming it. So it was a different sort of era, I think, when I went to business school. In some ways, I think that purpose was better. that I'm here for learning. I'm not here for placement. I'm not here for networking. I heard the term networking the first time in my life 10 years after I graduated from IIM. We just went there and we studied. And placements happened at the end of the course. And that's it. So the question is not business schools. The responsibility is yours. What are you doing? Business schools are doing it, right?
So that's very interesting point.
So I don't know, you may or may not agree with me, but I see the difference when I, see business schools today versus what was happening there. And the difference in the students. It's not in the professors, it's not in the institute.
Abhinav, you can ask your question.
Hello, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights so far. My question is, what are the current problems which you have observed in a lot of startups that are coming up these days, and how do you see specifically in India the trend that has been observed in startups coming in the future? How do you see startup ecosystem being changing in the future, specifically in India?
No, I think you have to ask me a more specific question. I mean, each startup has got its own problems, right? So there's no one problem across all startups. But in general, if you are customer focused and you actually go out on sales calls and interface with customers yourself, you'll be better off. So if you're doing a startup, sell yourself. Yeah, that's really important. Be in touch with the customer.
Thank you, sir.
Anish, you can ask the question.
Thank you, sir, for taking out the time. So my question was about the deep insights part you talked about, deep consumer insights. So, sir, what are some of the strategies you have used in the past or continue to use today, or some of the nuances you look for while searching for those deep consumer insights?
You know what? I'd never search for them, actually.
Okay, sir.
वो आ जाती हैं.
How do you differentiate from a traditional?
I don't know. There must be so many observations I had which may have contained insight, but I didn't get it. Penny did not drop in my head. But I tell you what, there were 14 of us in that open hall. We all saw people do business backwards. Only I got the insight. Point is that if you keep on observing, you are around long enough, कुछ ना कुछ चमक जाएगा बस. कभी ना कभी. कुछ मिस हो जाएंगे, कुछ चमक जाएंगे. But I don't have a strategy for seeking out insights. But if you're spending enough time talking to customers, observing them, कुछ ना कुछ समझ आ जाएगा तुम्हें. पहले समझ लगाओ. समय लगाओ, commit करो.
Thank you, sir. Right. So you are saying that we should be open to looking out for them. Right?
You should go on interacting with prospective customers. Yeah? Be an observer, be a listener.
Thank you,
reflect,
sir.
think about what you saw, what you observed, and what you heard.
Yashovardhan, you can ask your question.
Thank you for the session, sir. It was quite a few interesting points made by you. So, well, I have a question around startups. So I've been closely working with a startup in the news arena, and we've been trying to launch a mobile application. We did that a couple of months back, and now we're in a stage where we're reaching out to investors for funding. So I want to understand from you that what are the top things that we should keep in mind while we reach out to investors? Because usually they say get a prototype, have a plan, but what do you think is what you look out for when?
आपने launch कर दिया है?
Yes, sir.
तो कुछ traction आ रहा है? People are downloading it, people are using it.
So up till now we have about 10,000 downloads, and the average use time on the app.
आपका customer कौन है?
So it's actually the people who are sitting on this call. So it's mainly a news app for the youth, in the sense to make it very consumable.
News app for the youth? No, but what is the news you put there?
Well, everything that any young person wants to know. So like usually people have a habit of scrolling through reels on Instagram. So they use short form video, not more than 30 seconds. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to give you that through a mobile application wherein you can scroll through the app and you get news in 30 seconds in a very easy format. So there's like music going on at the background.
So are you differentiated? Is there something that's in the market already?
Sorry?
Are you differentiated?
So at this point, the closest competition in terms of what we're providing is InShots. However, InShots does not give video format, whereas what we're providing is video. So our USP is the video format that we provide.
Do your people who downloaded it, how many have stayed with it?
In terms of the retention?
Uninstall kitne hue?
So that figure is something I don't have with me yet.
Boss, if you have got 10,000 downloads, 9,500 uninstalls, you've got a problem. If you've got 10,000 downloads, but only 2,000 uninstalls, you're in much better shape. So you got to be data driven, first of all. You got to know your data. Right? Second, you got to be clearly differentiated. So there's nothing like this in the market. There's a gap. I've hit a hot button. Somebody who uses me ends up accessing my app 7 times a day. Now that's one thing. Yeah, we've got 10,000 downloads, maybe 4,000 uninstalls, 6,000 mein se about 400 people use it, on any given day, but there's nobody use it more than once in 2 weeks. That's very casual engagement and may not inspire an investor. Right? On the other hand, you tell me, boss, I've got 10,000 downloads, 3,000 uninstalls, 7,000 mein se 5,000 using it 7 times a day. It's a very different thing. It means it's addictive. कि एक बार किसी दिमाग में घुस गया तो वो निकल नहीं सकता. So I would say understand your data very well, and then do a good check on where you stand. And you will know the answer yourself. Am I in good shape or not?
Yeah, fair enough, sir. So we're actually in that space where we're trying to get more data and sort of remove bugs.
But this data you should be able to get, because it's all in your hands.
Yeah, we're working on that, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Amartya, you can ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for being here with us. So you started your career with FMCG before you started your own ventures.
Well, actually, I started my career in advertising, then FMCG.
All right, sir. So marketing, advertising, and then FMCG. So what were your learnings? Like, for example, a lot of us will be joining FMCG companies in MT roles and marketers. What should we be looking out for in our FMCG careers? And what did you learn in your FMCG
greatest thing
career?
I got from my advertising and marketing days was a very sharp customer orientation. What is the customer thinking? What does the customer looking for? What does the customer want? What are the unsatisfied needs? And that orientation has stayed with me right through. So, as if you're doing a job in sales or marketing or advertising, roughly 80% of your time will be spent doing operational stuff. And to actually do your job well, you've got to get the operations right. For the junior level, you'll be assessed on operations, not on anything else. But the other 20%, when you're actually spending time thinking about the customer, that is where I think I add a lot of value to myself, which is lasting.
All right, sir. Thank you. Got it.
Sir, we're almost out of time. So can we take one more question? If that's okay with you?
Sure.
Okay. Vishal, you can go ahead.
Right. Hello, sir. Thank you for the session. So my question was, when you started off Naukri.com, back then, all the platform businesses that we talk about right now, it wasn't a popular term. So when you started off, I'm pretty sure that you got the insight from people who are seeking the jobs, but your other side of the customers were also people who wanted the job, like who wanted searching for talent. So did you realize back then that you were dealing with a platform business? How did you manage?
Yeah, all this jargon was retrofitted.
Correct.
हमारा यही था कि if we get 1,000 jobs on the site any point in time, traffic आ जाएगा. और अगर traffic आ गया, then we can ask people to pay money for the listing, because we create value for them. And we know the recruiters are advertising newspapers, they're hiring placement consultants, so पैसा खर्च रहे हैं, तो थोड़ा सा पैसा हमें भी दे देंगे. और अगर दे दिया, तो शायद हम कामयाब हो जाएंगे. So simple, very simple. I didn't overthink it. There were no frameworks, there was no jargon, nothing. Okay. Just a customer understanding.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for sparing the time out of your busy schedule and sharing your entrepreneurship journey in the form of stories, your experiences, and answering so many questions. So I'm sure the attendees are taking away a lot of learnings with them, especially knowing the customers first and then launching the product, amongst other valuable inputs that we have gained. Sir, truly you are an inspiration to all of us, and we hope to host you again in future. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you everyone for attending the session.